Yunzi is the incarnation of an ancient existence who has stepped into the mortal realm with power far beyond common understanding, with countless followers trailing behind him wherever he went, chanting his name like it was both a blessing and a warning. Across the world, millions of mortals willingly laid down their lives for his cause, and with his terrifying otherworldly energy surging through him, he swept from east to west and north to south, hunting demon clans without mercy, succubi, abyssal beasts, every creature that crawled out of nightmares. Nothing was spared. He cleansed the world, drove darkness into hiding, and saved humanity from utter annihilation. And when it was finally over, Yuenzi did what every exhausted powerhouse would dream of doing. He retired. He went back to his kingdom, determined to abandon bloodshed, violence, and endless slaughter in exchange for something radical: peace. But fate, being the professional menace that it is, had other plans stored for him. Just as Mai Jiali thought he had fulfilled his purpose, a sharp pain detonated from his hips, ripping through his body so violently that even his iron will cracked. And this was no ordinary pain either. This pain was a warning. His connection to the other world, the source of his cultivation, was weakening at a terrifyingly fast rate, and he could feel his strength slipping through his fingers for reasons he couldn't understand, couldn't trace, and most horrifying of all, couldn't stop. And that was only the beginning of his problem. If word got out that he was losing his power, he was sure the demons he once drove into exile would return with an army at his doorstep within the hour, especially the succubi, because they never forgive. But somehow that wasn't what scared him the most. His real nightmare was living under the same roof as him, his disciples. 5 females, each more dangerous than the last, all impossibly talented, impossibly beautiful, and impossibly obsessed with him. They were already constantly trying to drain him dry at every opportunity, barely restrained by the fact that he was an untouchable existence at the peak of cultivation. Back when his strength was intact, he could suppress them with a single glance that reminded them exactly who they were dealing with. But now, if they discovered his current condition, he wouldn't be a revered master anymore. He'd be prey for them, turned into their personal plaything, to do as they pleased. Between demon invasions and disciple mutiny, Mai Jiali came to a horrifying realization. Surviving the Great War was easy. Surviving retirement? That might actually kill him. But snapping out of those terrifying thoughts, he decided to do something about the situation before things got out of hand. Fast forward, and a man was seen making his way through the shady streets of the town. Eventually, he arrived at a potion shop where he was greeted by a witch at the counter. Turns out it was our boy who came to this woman seeking something that might help him survive this situation, and the woman, surprisingly, agreed to help him out after listening to his story, for a price, of course. Cut back to the castle inside the massive pool of some sort, where a demon girl was being pinned to the wall by someone who demanded she tell her everything. This girl right here is the eldest disciple of our hero, and also the troublemaker of the squad. And standing right in front of her was their second disciple who, for some reason, wasn't happy with the girl for whatever she did. Not far from them was another girl who was watching their whole fight from outside the pool. This Loli version of Princess Peach is too fooling. The 5th disciple of our hero, and also the princess of the Candy Island, and the girl was telling both of them to stop fighting because they have more important things to worry about. Turns out their master had been missing for quite some time now, and none of them knew where he was or when he would be coming back, and she was worried that he might be gone for good. Just then, another voice came from the back, casually assuring her that there was no need to worry about their master. Looking back, she saw another one of their disciples, and this one right here, with cat ears and a clingy personality, is the 3rd disciple and also the queen of the fairy forest, who loves messing with Candy Princess. And right now, she was leaning in, whispering something very much not appropriate into her ear about the 2 half-naked girls nearby. And let's just say it wasn't PG. The 2 girls overheard her whispers, and neither of them was happy about the girls spreading rumors that they were interested in each other, so they called them both out. Seeing their angry faces, both girls ran back towards another person who was watching the whole scene in silence. And this one right here, this absolute beauty, and the prettiest one of them all, is the 4th disciple and the master of Oak Grove. But since she also had a sense of humor, she told both girls their sisters were busy right now, so they should give them some space, and bolted from the room with both girls. As for the one with blue hair, after they were alone, she confronted the demon girl, blaming her for the reason that their master had been avoiding all of them lately. On top of that, he disappeared without saying anything, which wasn't like him, and demanded she tell her everything she knows, and if she was the reason their master disappeared this time. After listening to everything the girl had to say, the demon girl suddenly moved, locking her leg in with her feet and cupping her face, trapping her completely, before she could try and free herself. The girl pinned her down to the floor, saying she had nothing to do with any of that. Instead, she confronted Bluehead for knowing something the rest of them don't, which was why she was acting in such a way. But strangely, she didn't press her for an answer. Instead, she assured the girl she has nothing to do with his disappearance, nor does she know where he went, and suggested if she was so worried about his safety, then she should stop wasting her time with her and go out to look for him. After she was done, she simply turned around to leave, but just before getting out of the pool, she asked the girl to let her know if she finds anything about their master. After all, she wasn't the only one who cared about him and was worried about his safety. Bluehead had nothing else to say, and she fell into thought, wondering if this girl truly didn't know what was going on with their master. Cut to some other part of the castle where the demon girl was walking around, still in her swimsuit, while thinking to herself how that girl probably also got a hint about the reason her master disappeared. Turns out she knew all too well why he left the castle in such secrecy. The reason was that he was losing his magical powers and was afraid of getting exposed, so he chose to keep his distance from all of them. And she, now armed with this knowledge, was planning on making the first move before any other disciple found out that their master was vulnerable now. And man, let me tell you, whatever she had planned for him isn't pleasant, or is it? I mean, depends on who you ask. Anyways, she was planning she was going to claim him for herself, turning him into her personal puppy that only belonged to her and no one else. Cut back to our hero, who was flying back towards the castle, when suddenly he felt that pain again, resulting in him losing a great chunk of his power, and he went plummeting toward the ground. But luckily he was still alive, so he slowly started making his way back to his feet while cursing his own weakness, that he wasn't even able to sustain a simple levitation spell in his condition. But then he remembered about that potion he got from that witch and frantically started looking for it to see if the vial was still intact. Luckily it was. Turns out the only solution he could come up with was to change his whole appearance, and for that reason he bought this transformation potion from that shop. Although he was not happy about giving up his handsome body, he had no other choice. For the sake of saving himself from his highly enthusiastic disciples and those succubi he had driven away, he had to accept this sacrifice. But the thing was, he could not exactly just drink it right away. There were some conditions that needed to be met first. To be more specific, he had to drink it at a certain time for the potion to take its full effect. Otherwise, the results were unpredictable. Arriving outside the palace, he recalled his beloved disciples, which got him wondering if he should just drop this idea of transformation altogether and come clean. After all of them were strong enough to protect him and this kingdom, even with him in this state. But then he remembered their personalities and how obsessive they were about him, meaning there was a very high chance if they found out the truth, they might end up fighting among each other to have him for themselves. Yeah, that was a terrifying thought, so he decided it was best he keep everything a secret from them after all. And since he couldn't just enter from the front door in his current state, he chose the back door instead to sneak back into his own home. But the moment he looked up, his jaw nearly hit the floor because right in front of him was his first disciple in her default skin, who was waiting for him to come back home so she could greet him with this gift. Next chapter. Thankfully, she at least had some fabric on her body as she warmly welcomed our boy. On the inside, however, the girl was smirking. Him entering through the back door only confirmed her suspicions. He was avoiding them on purpose, which also meant her suspicions about him losing his powers were true. As for our hero, he quickly turned around, shouting at the girl, asking what she was doing in this place. She answered she was just waiting for him to come back home so she could greet him, and slowly started walking up to him. Leaning in closer to his ear, she asked where was he hiding the whole time. Our hero explained he just went out to run some errands, but before he could even finish that sentence, the girl slammed a collar on his neck. Next thing our boy knew, she was yanking at the thing, telling him there was no escape for him anymore. Furious, he decided to show this girl what happens when she disrespects her master in such a way, but as he tried to break the chains, nothing happened. Looking up, he saw the girl's expression, who realized that the guy was so weak now that he couldn't even break himself free from something like this anymore. So she told him to stop resisting because she already knew everything, and calmly suggested he come with her. That terrified our hero because this girl was the scariest one of them all, and his secret got exposed in front of her of all people. But he had no time to panic, because the girl was already face to face with him, calling him her good little doggy, promising she won't treat him badly. Yeah, our boy knew this girl meant every word of what she said. On top of that, him an incarnation of a powerful being, spending his whole life as this woman's pet was a terrifying thought, so he started thinking of ways to escape. Just then he got an idea, so without thinking he shouted, calling out to someone by the name of Hoshino Arashi, asking what they were doing here. And yeah, I am assuming it is another one of his disciples because I still don't know their names. Hearing that name, the girl immediately turned around, and her tone did a complete 180 as she told the girl she can explain herself, but as she opened her eyes there was no one there. Furious that she got tricked, she turned towards our boy, but by then he was already gone. Cut to some other place and our hero was frantically running to save himself from that crazy girl, and while doing so, he could think of only one way of saving himself, and that was by drinking the potion he got from that witch. But right before he was about to do it, he stopped and recalled what that woman had warned him before selling him this thing, that once he drinks the potion, changing back to his original self won't be an easy task. But then he heard a voice from the back calling out his name. Oh boy, this girl is scary. She whipped out a sword bigger than her own body to use it and chop off our hero's legs, so he won't be able to run from her anymore. Seeing the size of her weapon and the expression on her face, our hero knew he was screwed. As for the girl, she wasted no time and started chasing after him at full speed. Seeing her closing in, our hero thought screw it and started gulping down the whole thing. The moment the potion hit his stomach, he felt a strange sensation spread through his entire body, and before he knew it, he was coughing out some kind of red liquid from his mouth. Looking at his reflection, he remembered he was supposed to drink this thing at a specific time and realized something went terribly wrong. That is when he felt a strange sensation in his stomach, as if his entire body was burning up. And before he knew it, the potion started doing its thing, and his body started going through some kind of transformation. His limbs started shrinking, and his whole body started to change shape. And within seconds, the whole process was over, but it had a massive toll on his body, and he lost consciousness and fell straight to the ground. Next panel, bam, Loli. This absolute powerhouse of a Chad turned into a silver-haired Loli after drinking that thing. He was still conscious, well, barely, because he could still feel his body burning up, and the exhaustion from that transformation was so overwhelming that he was not even able to open his eyes. That was when a pair of feet stopped next to her. And yep, it was the demon girl staring down at the girl on the ground in confusion, wondering who this child was and how she got here. Not sure why, but to check if the girl was still alive, she decided to use her feet instead of her hands, and after nudging her a few times, she realized the girl was okay. But strangely enough, when she took a closer look at her, she noticed the child looked awfully similar to her master for some reason. But that was not what caught her attention the most. The thing she was more curious about was how this tiny little girl was so soft at this spot. Guess she would be jealous. I mean, she is a flat chest after all. Cut back to the castle, and everything had finally quieted down. Inside one of the rooms of the place, our boy was slowly opening his eyes after recovering some of his strength, and right next to him, the very same woman he had been trying to escape the whole time, who was sleeping peacefully with her arms wrapped around him. But he was more curious about his hands and why they looked so small. Getting up, he turned towards a mirror in the room to see what was going on, and in the reflection, he saw someone else entirely. That got him wondering who this cute little girl was. That is when he remembered the potion and froze, realizing what had happened. But just to double check if he really turned into a girl, he lifted his clothes, and sure enough, his weapon of mass destruction was nowhere to be seen. This terrified the fool so much that his soul almost left his body on the spot. And boy, the Chad was actually crying, seeing his chiseled manly body being reduced into this soft, squishy self of a little girl. Furious, he turned towards Pink Head, whose name is finally revealed, Nessie, blaming her for everything. But the girl was sound asleep with no care in the world. Seeing her in this state, he wondered what was going on, because she should be all over him, but instead she was sound asleep. But this was perfect, because in his current state, he knew he was no match for this woman if she decided to go after him again. So he prepared to quietly slip out of that place before she woke up. But just as he took a few steps, Nessie slowly started opening her eyes. Next thing our boy knew, he had a collar tied around his neck as the girl suddenly yanked him back towards her, and he slammed back on the ground on his butt. Looking back, he saw the girl sitting up on the bed, asking where he thought he was going. According to the girl, she had to go through a lot of trouble to drag our boy's tiny little body back to the castle, and now he was just leaving without even saying a thank you. After which, that same expression returned back on her face as she called our boy her little rice ball. Our hero, realizing the girl knew who he was, froze for a second. But that wasn't the most shocking part for him. The thing that shocked him more was the fact that this girl had just referred to him as rice ball, and that alone infuriated our hero. So in his anger, he pulled the chain along with the girl towards himself. After which, he asked the girl if this was really what her master taught her. Before the girl could even process what the kid was talking about, he had her in a very dangerous position. Next panel, whack, our furious Chad started unloading on the girl's poor behind, going non-stop with everything he had in that tiny body of his, while scolding the girl, saying instead of helping a girl who passed out in the middle of nowhere, she put a dog collar around her neck like she was some kind of animal. Nessie tried explaining herself, but it was no use. Our hero was so angry that he wasn't even listening, and in his anger, he called the girl a traitor to her master. That made the girl angry, and she unloaded on our hero, saying that rice ball was what was written on the vial of potion she found with her, so she thought it was her name. And for the collar, she placed it there because she was afraid she might run away after waking up. Hearing that, our hero actually froze, because he was the one who put that tag on that vial himself for no reason whatsoever. And if that was the case, then there was a chance this girl still didn't know of his true identity, which was why she was mistaking him for someone else. But he had already screwed up big time, because the girl's rear was all red now, with steam practically coming out of the bruise. On top of that, she was angry about the fact that he called her a traitor and asked what did he mean by that. And just between us, this girl could have broken free when our hero caught her at any time, but she didn't. I'm starting to think she was enjoying herself being treated like that. Okay, that's enough conspiracy talk. Back to the story, Nessie was absolutely livid, and she shouted, saying that her master was a living legend of this land, an incarnation of a powerful being from another world. Before our hero knew it, the girl had him pinned to the floor, demanding to know how dare he even think of calling her a traitor to someone like him. Seeing her expression, our hero was terrified, so he apologized while asking why she had brought him to her own room, since neither of them even knew each other. Oh boy, she may have not recognized him, but her intentions towards our hero were the same, because the moment her eyes landed on him out in that forest, she fell in love with him. But on the outside, she told our hero his body was a curse to this very world. But since our Chad had no clue what this crazy girl was talking about, she explained she was worried about his safety since his body was extremely dangerous. And is it just me, or is the artist making her healthier with each chapter? Because I'm 100% certain she was a flat chest when she was first introduced back in the pool room. Anyway, she leaned in closer to our boy's ear, whispering that as payment for saving her back there, he would have to spend the rest of his life with her. Man, this guy was actually blushing, hearing those words. I mean, why even go through all that trouble if he didn't mind spending his life with this girl? But then, getting a hold of his thoughts, he pushed the girl off of him and confronted her, saying she was just saying those things because she wanted to take advantage of him, and made it clear that even if she forced him into becoming her slave, he wouldn't give in to her demands. Cut to some other part of the city, and the second disciple, Arashi, was making her way someplace with a frantic girl chasing after her, reporting how they had been searching non-stop but didn't manage to find any clues that might lead them to their master. Hearing that, Arashi stopped and asked about Nessie and if they noticed anything strange about her while she was away, or if she left the castle in her absence. This cute glasses-wearing secretary, whom I hope is just short and not underage, reported she never left the castle grounds, nor did they notice anything strange about her behavior. She explained that after their master's disappearance, the security around the palace had been tightened, fearing monstrous attacks, so her leaving the place unnoticed was nearly impossible. That made Arashi suspicious because she was well aware of her younger sister's nature. She wasn't the kind of person who would just sit idly by when her master was missing for so long and wondered what was going on. So after thinking for a bit, she came to the conclusion that the girl knew something which she was hiding from the rest of them. So she ordered the little one named Bing Tang to send their Knights Templars over to her place and find out what she had been up to. Next chapter, and our hero was staring at the torn pieces of his clothes. Well, apparently things happened earlier, things I couldn't describe here because YouTube would probably get a heart attack. So long story short, Nessie transferred some of her magic inside our boy's body, resulting in his body growing bigger, his senses going completely haywire. After which he went all freaky with the girl, scaring the soul out of Nessie, who immediately backed away halfway through because she was saving her first time for our hero. And after all that drama, here we are, a furiously confused kid who was wondering what went wrong with him back there, that he lost all control over his body and jumped Nessie. Furious, he blamed Nessie for putting him under some kind of spell or something that made him act like that, but Nessie cut him off mid-rant, telling him to stay quiet. She explained that our hero was born with some kind of charming skill, meaning that as long as he was constantly being imbued with magical power, his full potential would eventually come out. After explaining that to him, she turned around, asking him to keep whatever happened between them a secret from everyone, and prepared to head out to get our boy something to eat. For some reason, our hero noticed that the girl seemed angry about something as she instructed him not to leave this room while she was away. After she was gone, our hero started thinking over what Nessie had said about him possessing some kind of charming skill and wondered if that potion could have been the reason he awakened that ability. If so, then this was bad, because he now possessed a cursed charming body with no magic to defend himself, meaning he was completely vulnerable for anyone to take advantage of him. With what little strength was left in his body after everything that had happened between the two of them, he got up on shaky legs, after which he scanned the whole place for any possible traps or ambushes. And after confirming that the coast was clear, he bolted from the room to get away from that crazy woman before things got any worse. Just as he was about to exit the room, a knife came flying towards him, pinning him to the ground. Before he could process what happened, another knife landed inches away from his skull, and then the third one near a very dangerous area of his body. Looking up, he saw Nessie walking into the room, surrounded by her Yander aura that was covering the whole room. And damn, what is up with that red liquid on her face? What on earth was she preparing for our boy? Terrified, our hero made up an excuse that he was just going out for a walk. On top of that, he was afraid of whatever this girl made for him after seeing those red stains all over her face, so he told her he wasn't hungry. But the girl, however, wasn't listening, so she slowly started walking up to him with a bowl in hand, after which she slammed the thing right before him. Seeing the white stuff inside that bowl, our hero had absolutely no clue what it was. As for Nessie using her powers, she manifested a chair in the room, after which she told our hero she made that special feed just for him and told him to start eating. Our boy was shaken, seeing how the girl was treating him and the fact that she was calling whatever this was special feed, making it painfully clear that this crazy woman was thinking of him like a dog right now. Seeing that he was hesitating, the girl giggled a little, asking if by any chance he was a picky eater. And since he belonged to her now and she was his master, she casually told him she would not tolerate that kind of behavior from her servant. And since she was a good master, she decided to help her little slave girl overcome this bad habit of hers by feeding her this delicious food she made for her herself with love and care. The moment our hero heard those words come out of the girl's mouth, he froze, because never in all the years he had known her had he ever even dreamed that this girl had this side to her. But he also knew he had no other choice. He had to do it, otherwise she might get suspicious of him. So, with no other choice, he took her foot in his hands and prepared to do as the girl was saying. But just as it was inches away from his tongue, the girl snapped and pulled her foot away from his mouth, saying that was enough. This surprised our hero, so he looked up to see what was going on and heard the girl say he could not just do whatever people told him to do, especially not something like this. Our boy, who was already confused, started freaking out seeing her angry. On top of that, she was scolding him even though she was the one who forced him to do that in the first place. And he wondered if this girl could be schizophrenic because nothing she was saying made sense. As for Nessie herself, she wasn't done. She stood up, and that scared our hero because he was afraid she was planning to repeat what she did to him earlier. But instead, he saw her whipping out a whole banquet in front of him out of thin air, cheerfully saying she was just messing with him. Turns out this was the real food she prepared for him. Our hero's jaw dropped, seeing this girl change faces again. I mean, she showed so many sides of herself in one night to our boy that he couldn't even keep up anymore. But then he noticed something strange about the dishes she made for him, because on that table were two different kinds of foods, ones that he likes and ones that he dislikes. And if that was the case, then it meant everything she had been doing to him since earlier was also a test. Even the part where she tried to humiliate him by making him lick her feet. And the reason she got angry was because she knew her true master would never stoop to that level or submit himself to his own disciple. As for Nessie, she was growing impatient, so she told our hero to hurry up and start eating. And the expression on her face confirmed it for him. This was another one of her tests, meaning if he ate the things he loves, she would know it was really him. But the problem was he really was a notoriously picky eater, so he started sweating, wondering what he should do now. But taking a hold of himself, he started walking up to the girl, and that surprised Nessie. Before she could ask what he was doing, he got up on the table, reminding the girl what she told him earlier, that he was her slave, and if that was the case, then it was natural that his owner eats before him. And the method he chose to feed his master was questionable, to say the least. Next thing she knew, the kid had turned himself into a walking plate, covering his whole body with the dishes she prepared for him and told to enjoy the meal. Yeah, Nessie was pissed seeing him pull that move on her. I mean, at this point, pissed might as well be an understatement because the girl was burning up, seeing how this kid kept weaseling his way out of every test she set up for him. As for our hero, still acting all innocent, he asked the girl if he did something wrong by offering to feed his master before him. Done with everything, Nessie simply turned around and started cursing her own luck for getting stuck with this brat. As for the one behind her, yeah, he was enjoying every second of her misery, marveling at his own cleverness that he managed to turn the tables on her with his quick thinking. Nessie, however, was seriously starting to wonder if her doubts about that girl being her master were even correct. But then again, from everything she had seen so far, how she appeared out of nowhere right after her master disappeared, there was still a big chance she was her master and was just toying with her with these antics. And while thinking that, she got an idea to confirm it once and for all, and that was checking his weapon. Because according to her, even if he was highly skilled in body transformation, he still couldn't change his sexual characteristic. Good luck with that one, woman. You won't find anything down there anymore. But since she still didn't know about that, she decided to check it out herself. And the excuse she came up with was helping him get changed into new clothes, because these old ones were all worn out. Our hero had no objections to that. After all, in his mind, he had already beaten this girl in her games, so he agreed to do as she was saying. That was all she wanted to hear, and once again, out of thin air, she manifested some new clothes for him. And damn, how do you even call those clothes? That's just a bunch of strings that she was planning on putting on him. Even the kid himself was shocked, seeing what she was holding in her hand and the fact that he was supposed to walk around wearing that stuff. But the girl wasn't backing down. For the sake of getting her answers, she was dead set to put these strings on our hero's body. The kid, however, didn't know how he was supposed to say no, so he slowly started backing away, reaching for his original clothes. After which, he dropped on the table, throwing a tantrum that he liked his original clothes better. Yeah, right, like a little tantrum was going to stop Nessie. So she grabbed him by his leg and with almost no effort, pulled him into her lap, telling her she needed to be a good girl and obey her master. I know I'm going between he and she throughout the story, but what can I do? I myself am confused, so bear with it. Or you know what, I'll just call him a she from now on. Back to the story, our hero realized that this woman was cooking something again, which meant things could get bad for her if she didn't act fast. And that's when Nessie finally struck, slowly reaching right towards the danger zone. Panicking, our hero instinctively jumped up, pushing the girl off of him, and once again he found himself in an awkward position. Both of them froze for a second until our hero noticed the expression Nessie was making, and that got him wondering what was up with that. That was until he looked down after feeling something strange underneath him. Yep, he was sitting on her hands and the girl was screaming for him to quickly get off of her. Next panel, and our hero was sitting there awkwardly, wondering if he did something wrong in his previous life to deserve this. As for the girl, she was just confused because the kid didn't have anything down there. But guess what? She still wasn't done. She was still suspicious that this kid was her master, just with a very convincing disguise. And this time, she wasn't planning on using any tricks to find out the answers either. Our hero also realized that the girl had finally snapped, and that terrified him because he knew firsthand how she can be when she is angry. Before he knew it, she grabbed him by his neck and lifted him up, demanding he reveal his true identity. Seeing that this girl had finally lost it, our hero started fearing for his life, but luckily she calmed down just as quickly and released him. The reason wasn't that she was giving up on getting to the bottom of this whole situation, but because she already had a method to find out the truth without our hero admitting to it himself, and that was through the same potion vial she found lying near him when she first discovered him unconscious. Before our hero could understand what she meant by that, Nessie recounted the whole incident from that time. How, when chasing after her master, she saw him drinking something after which he disappeared, and she found her on the same spot where her master was supposed to be. But our hero continued to deny knowing anything, After all, it could have all just been one big coincidence. Nessie agreed, but still, there was a chance her master used this thing to transform himself into a Loli, and she wondered what would happen if she sent the leftovers of this potion to a lab for experimentation. Yeah, our hero knew he was cooked, because no way the people in the lab wouldn't figure out that thing was a body transformation potion. As for Nessie, after going through so much nonsense, she was at her limit, so she warned the kid that if the results from the lab showed that she was lying to her, she wouldn't hesitate to end her once and for all. And if by any chance she was thinking of swapping the vial before it got sent, then she would be wasting her time because guess what? She had already sent a sample of this thing to be tested while she was peacefully sleeping on that bed. As for the results, she was sure they would reach her the day after tomorrow. Next chapter, and it was already the day for those reports to come. As for our hero, he spent all this time trying to come up with the perfect escape from this place, and that was this spoon. Turns out he was using the oldest trick in the book to escape from this place, using this metal spoon to dig a tunnel out of the castle. And just for reference how ridiculous this plan was, this castle is massive. I mean massive. This guy is literally thinking of digging a whole tunnel underneath the whole thing to the other side. And he was damn well proud of this ingenious plan he came up with after wasting 2 days with that psycho demon girl. So much for incarnation of a powerful entity. Anyways, he was wondering how much time he had left until that psycho lady returned back to the castle with those reports, and he jinxed it. The moment he thought of that, the door of the place opened up, and in came our beautiful Bender with the result papers in her hand. Hearing her footsteps coming closer to the room, the poor kid started panicking, realizing she was back, and he was so terrified that he literally started digging with everything he had while screaming his lungs out. But little did he know, the report that came from the lab didn't exactly prove that he used that potion to change his form because the sample was too little for them to completely verify its contents. They did, however, use that sample on a test subject, and she showed faint signs of change in her body, but that was all. Other than that, they couldn't tell if it truly was a body modification potion. But Nessie wasn't worried. Even if the results didn't confirm he used that thing to turn himself into a Loli, for her this was enough information to make her precious little rice ball speechless. On top of that, even if she refused to admit it, with just this much she was sure she would get plenty of leverage to screw her over in the future. And man, what is up with that expression? The girl is literally drooling, daydreaming of all the ways she was going to mess with that tiny little girl and make her admit she is her master. With that thought in mind, she opened the door to the place, calling our hero's name. But to her surprise, the room was completely empty. When she scanned the place to see where she could be hiding, she saw a hole in the ground. Seeing that tunnel, Nessie froze in horror, realizing that the girl managed to escape from her castle. As for the girl in question, she surprisingly made it out. Honestly, I didn't think that plan was going to work, but here she is, standing underneath the rain, savoring the sweet victory of freedom. Cut back to the castle, and the maid responsible for keeping an eye on our hero was kneeling in front of Nessie, apologizing for her failure and asking if she should order her men to go and look for her. Surprisingly, Nessie told her not to do that because she already knew where that girl was going to end up, and there was no way for them to get to her for now. Turns out she was aware of the Knights Templar who were sent around her castle by Arashi to keep an eye on her, and she was sure they probably got to that girl by now. And sure enough, our hero spotted some people walking up to her from the distance. The reason they were approaching her was because Nessie secretly left her scent all over her while she was with her, and her being a demon meant those Templars were now going to mistake that girl for a demon as well, because of the demonic aura her body was giving out. Yep, she was right, because both men were staring down our Chad with hostile looks on their faces because of the demonic scent coming off her body. But since our hero didn't know about that, she asked the men if she did something wrong. The two men, without even giving her a chance to explain herself, restrained her, and to her surprise, both of them were calling her a demon while getting ready to take her to the Holy Temple. Meanwhile, Nessie herself was wondering how she was supposed to proceed from here, because dealing with that woman wasn't going to be easy. And if she found out that the child was actually their master and she was secretly keeping him here as her hostage, that might make things difficult for her. Cut to the temple, where our hero was being brought to be judged by their archmage. The first thing they did was force her on her knees to kneel in front of their master, after which they started slandering her as a demon, claiming this child had a strong demonic aura around her body. But Arashi herself noticed something else about this child, because the aura she was feeling from this child seemed familiar to her somehow. So she got up, telling our hero to lift his head for her. Annoyed, our hero decided to just do as he was being told for now. But as his eyes landed on those massive jugs, her face, his eyes widened in disbelief because the person standing before him was his second disciple. As for the girl, she was surprised to see that this kid knew her name and asked who she was. Our hero was so done with everything that he just reached for her leg, and after latching onto her, started crying his eyes out, telling her the whole story and how these two fools behind her mistook her for a demon and dragged her all the way here to be executed. And after she was done with that sub-story, she called the girl her disciple, and the whole place fell silent. Hearing those words, one of the guards immediately unsheathed his blade to punish this girl for disrespecting their great archmage. However, Arashi shouted for him to stop, saying she thinks this child might be innocent and suggested that they at least identify her properly before jumping to any conclusions. Turning back towards our hero, she asked for her name and where she came from. Seeing her affection, our hero finally saw hope. After all, she was his most gentle, sweet, smart, and understanding disciple, and also the only one who could help him in this situation. So with tears in her eyes, she reached for the girl's face and told her she was his master. The girl froze to that claim at first, but then, as she looked closer, she did feel a faint hint of her master inside this child. The rest of the people in the room, however, froze at that claim, and obviously all of them surrounded him with their weapons for the crime of impersonating their lord. Seeing that these people were seriously trying to end him, our hero shouted for them to at least let him explain himself. So did Arashi, because for some reason she had a feeling this child wasn't lying. She ordered her men to stand down until this whole matter was properly cleared up. With that, she activated her ability, reminding the men their master possessed powers far beyond what was considered normal to ordinary people, so it was possible he used some kind of ability to turn himself into a little girl. But she, on the other hand, knew how to confirm his identity and find out if this child truly was their master, because he had magical marking on his body, and if what this child was saying was true, then she should also bear that same marking on her body. Seeing that the girl was seriously planning on blasting her with ice magic, our hero tried getting away, but it was already too late for that. The woman landed a direct hit on his body, and he realized this was his end because he had already lost most of his powers, so there was no way his weak body would be able to withstand a direct hit from that powerhouse. But then that attack stopped, and he froze for a second because he never expected her of all people to use this kind of ability on him. Turns out she, instead of verifying that marking like a normal human being, blasted off all of his clothes right in front of all these men standing around her, leaving our hero furious and embarrassed at the same time. So he shouted for the girl to explain herself. She, however, just calmly told our hero not to be afraid, and guess what she said after that? "I'm just checking you out." Yeah, she actually said it. I mean, seriously, who says something like that in a situation like this? After that part was taken care of, she turned to her men, instructing them all to turn around while she examined this child's body using her magic. Before our hero knew it, the girl started running her hand all over his body to search for that mark, and that same feeling from when Nessie infused his body with her magic started coming back to him. But he knew he had no other choice, because in order to prove he was her master, he needed to endure this. So he just lay there while the woman infused his body with her magic to reveal the mark. But there was one thing that was worrying him. That mark, after spending a couple of days with Nessie, had started to erode, so he was afraid she might not be able to recognize it in its current state. But just as he was thinking that, the gem on the girl's body suddenly started to glow. Before she knew it, she was being uncontrollably pulled towards our hero, and this surprised both of them. Turns out she managed to locate that marker, and that thing was actually resonating with her magic, which was why the gem on her body was pulling her towards this girl. And that got her wondering if this girl really was her master, because there was no other explanation for her body to be feeling like this around her. And if this truly was the case, then it meant her long search had just come to an end. And man, I can already tell this woman is going to be more dangerous than that Yander demon girl. I mean, look at that grin. Our hero just fell from the fire into the frying pan. As for the girl, after confirming everything, she stood back up, telling our hero she was done. So he asked if she finally realized he was her master. But instead of answering, the woman told her men to turn towards them, and bam, ordered them to arrest this imposter. The girl literally shouted for her men to throw her into a cellar for impersonating her master. Next thing our boy knew, he was being dragged out of the room while he shouted for the girl to let him explain himself. But it was no use, no one was listening to him anymore, so they took her out of the place. After she was finally alone, she started thinking over the whole situation, and not sure why, but this woman was thinking of settling some score with our boy. On top of that, the reason she ordered her men to throw him into the dungeon was because she didn't want others to find out about him, since in his current state he was too weak to defend himself. But who are we kidding? She is just as psychotic as Nessie, if not more, and she just wanted to lock him up in the cellar so she could have him all to herself. But still, there was something bugging her. When infusing his body using her magic, she noticed some traces of demonic aura inside his body, and she wondered what could have caused that. That was until a terrifying thought hit her head, and she realized what Nessie had done to their master while he was trapped in her castle. Cut back to Nessie's castle, as spooky and cool looking as ever, and inside she was enjoying a refreshing bath when a maid entered her shower with some urgent news. She asked what this was about and why she was being interrupted while she was bathing. Turns out she had guests waiting for her, so she came here to inform her about them. And apparently, this guest was no ordinary visitor either, because Nessie immediately sprang up hearing who it was. Her father. Her father wanted to talk to her. Fast forward, and the girl was standing next to a fireplace, throwing a piece of paper into the flames. As soon as the thing caught fire, a voice came from the flames calling out to the girl. Within seconds, those flames took the form of a massive humanoid being, which the girl was referring to as her father. As for the demon, the first thing he asked the girl after appearing in the room was if she had forgotten her purpose. Turns out there was a reason our hero was calling her a traitor. This woman had been secretly conspiring with the very same demons our hero drove away from this land, and her father was one of them. So she told the man she hadn't forgotten anything. The furious man demanded an answer from the girl. Why didn't she end that man when she had such a perfect opportunity? He reminded her how that person mercilessly took out thousands of her kin, and how the ones who managed to survive were rotting away inside some sealed frozen Iceland. And right now she was their only hope, because only she possessed the power to free their people. Annoyed by his rambling, the girl pushed his hand away, telling the man she already knew all that, so she wouldn't go back on what she promised him. On top of that, she suggested he refrain from contacting her for the time being, because if the people of the Holy Church noticed he was in her castle, things would get difficult for both of them. As for that man, she assured him she already had a plan to deal with him, and tonight she was going to find a way to get him no matter what. Little did they know their whole conversation was being monitored by another individual from some other place using some kind of magic mirror or something. And this person was looking forward to seeing what this girl had planned for our boy. Cut back to our hero, still in his default skin, wondering what was going on and how he ended up in this situation, especially his body, because with each passing day it was becoming more and more like that of a woman. But that wasn't even the worst thing that was bugging him. The main thing that had him confused was how on earth he ended up inside this massive place with a pool instead of the dungeon. While he was processing that, the door to the place suddenly swung open, and in came the beautiful second disciple, who overheard our hero coming up with ways to escape from this place. So she called out to him, and the poor kid almost jumped out of his skin hearing her voice. Turning back, he told the girl he wasn't trying to escape, he just wanted to go out for a walk and nothing else. But then he froze for a second, realizing that woman had just called him her master. Surprised, he turned towards her, asking if she really recognized him, and the girl answered yes. Hearing her answer, our hero, being the man of culture he was, started staring at her fun bags while asking why she ordered her Templars to throw him into a dungeon, and more importantly, what was up with that dress she was wearing. The girl answered the reason she did that was because she knew he was trying to hide himself from the others. So if she had called him her master in front of all those people, that would have made things difficult for him. And more importantly, this way she could easily protect him. After she was done explaining herself, she asked our hero a question. Why didn't he transform back into his original self when he was being arrested by those Templars? And if by any chance the rumors she heard about him were true, that he was losing his powers. That part shocked our hero, since he had no idea that such rumors were flying around the whole kingdom, and more importantly, who was the one spreading those rumors in the first place? Then another terrifying thought came to his head. What if this woman was also a traitor who wanted to keep him locked up inside her castle, hidden from the outside world? After thinking over everything, he came to the conclusion that he couldn't let his weakness show in front of her. So, acting like a dignified master, he told the girl the reason he chose to stay in this form was because he was just curious and nothing else. As for those rumors, he denied knowing anything about them. After he was done speaking, he told the girl he was tired, so he would be heading out now. But Arashi, on the other hand, had something else in her mind, so she offered to give him a proper bath before taking him back to his room. Our hero obviously resisted, but the girl insisted. After all, his whole body was covered in mud. According to her, a cute girl, such as herself, must not walk around in this state. Our boy, though, had a terrifying feeling that this woman was up to something, but the thing was he didn't have the power to stop her, and if he tried resisting, she would find out that he was no longer the powerhouse he once was. So in the end, he decided to just do as she was saying and allowed her to give him a bath. Getting in, he noticed the girl was acting a little weird for some reason, as if she was looking forward to it. As for Arashi, she took a handful of soap, or whatever it was, and started putting those magic fingers of hers to work. The moment her hands touched our hero's body, he realized this was a bad idea, because once again his body was starting to feel weird. So he asked the girl that much was enough, but no way she was stopping after coming so far. She asked our hero to just bear with her for a moment. After all, as his disciple, she should make sure her master was squeaky clean and presentable. Yep, it happened again. Our boy lost all control over his thoughts and collapsed on the ground. As for the girl, her eyes were practically sparkling, seeing him make that face. Yep, she's also crazy. I mean, look at that expression she is making. Our boy is doomed. Next chapter, and she was recalling how in the past her master felt like an unshakable existence, ruling through sheer power. On top of that, he used to punish them harshly for even the smallest mistakes. What kind of punishment even is that? Is this even legal? Anyway, back in the present, our hero had somehow managed to calm down and was staring at Arashi with those teary eyes, wondering when all of this would end. As for the girl, recalling all those times when he punished her for slacking off or not studying, she made up her mind that she was going to use this chance to get back at him for everything he did to her. So she reached for his back, saying it was time to wash her backside. Next thing our hero knew, she had him locked into the perfect position to carry out her revenge. Our hero, though, knew this was a bad idea, so he started flailing, trying to free himself, but it was no use. On top of that, he was starting to suspect that the girl was planning something fishy. That was when it finally hit him. This might be her way of getting back at him for all the times he had punished her in the past. So he asked the girl if she, by any chance, was holding a grudge against him. By then, the girl was already slapping his rear with everything she had, with an excuse that she was just cleaning dust off of her tush. After she was satisfied, she started wondering if the rumors she heard about him were really true, and if so, then that meant she could keep him here all to herself and toy with him forever. So, to test it, she decided to use this opportunity to test the mana inside his body and asked our boy to lie down for her, because they needed to smear his body with this oil as a last step. Hearing that it was finally over, our hero took a sigh of relief and decided to do as the girl was saying to get it over with. If only he knew what a bad idea it was, because while applying that oil on his body, the girl used the opportunity and started infusing his body with her own mana. By the time our hero realized what she was doing, it was already too late to stop her. But still, he desperately tried to stop the girl before things went out of hand. By then, his body was already undergoing that same transformation and he felt himself getting bigger. Before he knew it, bang, he completely transformed into a healthy female. This shocked Arashi because all she did was pour a little bit of her mana into him. But that was the least of her worries right now, because at that very same moment, she felt a dangerous presence creeping closer to them. Sure enough, as she turned around, the whole place was reeking of demonic energy. Thinking quickly, she shoved our hero into the water, telling him to stay quiet. Just as she did that, she saw Nessie appearing in front of her. That even surprised our hero because her coming to see Arashi was rare, given how much the two girls hated each other. On top of that, he was afraid of being discovered by her, because if that happened, a fight would break out between them, and he definitely didn't want to end up as a casualty. By then, Nessie was already walking up to the two, with Arashi asking the reason for this sudden visit. Leaning in closer, Nessie told the girl she was just looking around for their master and happened to pass by her place, so she decided to pay her sister a visit. Then she dropped the real bomb that she heard rumors about their master living with her inside her palace. As for poor Arashi, her mind was going haywire for some reason, and she didn't know why. As for the walking aphrodisiac latched onto her legs, seeing the girl struggling like that, he hoped that she wouldn't break and accidentally reveal his location to that psycho demon girl. Nessie, however, seeing that the girl refused to talk, got straight to the point, saying she came here for their master and suggested she hand him over quietly. Arashi, taking a hold of her emotions, turned towards the girl, asking if she seriously referred to their master in such a way, as if he were an ordinary peasant she can push around, and reminded her of his terrifying power and what might happen to her if he found out about this. But Nessie wasn't buying that bluff one bit. After all, she knew the truth about our hero, and she was sure that by now Arashi herself had noticed it too. But since she wasn't sure, Nessie decided to tell her the truth, as she told the girl that right now their master's magic was so pathetic that he couldn't even turn back into his original self and was stuck inside the body of a little girl. That revelation shocked Nessie, because it meant everything she had heard so far was true. Meanwhile, the lucky bastard, trapped underneath her, was taking the full brunt of that shock, as she unknowingly clenched her legs tightly and nearly choked the poor guy's throat. But hey, not the worst way to go if you ask me. With no other way to save himself and him running out of breath, our boy closed his eyes, wondering if he should actually cross that line to save himself or not. But in the end, realizing he wouldn't be able to survive if this kept up any longer, he did the unthinkable, clenched his mouth against the girl's belly button for oxygen, which absolutely made no sense. At this point, I'm starting to think the artist is just coming up with these stupid ideas on the spot. As for the girl, she was already feeling the effects of the aphrodisiac the kid's body was giving out, and with him doing something like that, she started seeing stars. As for Nessie, the girl still had no clue what was going on with this girl, because she had been acting weird since the moment she first saw her. Ignoring that, she told the girl there was no use hiding him anymore and suggested both of them share him instead of fighting over him. But then she did something she shouldn't have. She touched the girl with her finger. And man, that was the final nail to the coffin, because Arashi's brain went completely blank and her body started to move on its own as she pulled the girl towards herself, surprising her. Before she could process what was going on, bam, Arashi had already locked her in a very dangerous hold, which lasted for quite some time. After Arashi was satisfied, she let go of the girl. As for Nessie, she herself was starting to feel the effects of our hero's charm ability, but she knew she was running out of time, so she pushed the girl off of her. But she was completely flustered after what she did to her, and that got her wondering what had gotten into this girl. After all, she is usually so mild-mannered, and her doing something like this was completely out of character. But then she took a closer look at her and noticed signs of being infected by a charm stigmata of our hero, the same one he used on her not too long ago. And after putting two and two together, she finally realized where she had been hiding that kid, right underneath her butt. So she told him to come out, because there was no use hiding from her anymore. Man, is this girl blind or something? How can she not be able to see under clear water? Well, ignoring that, our hero was already clinging tightly to Arashi's leg instead of trying to move away, hoping that she wouldn't find him. Realizing that they got busted, Arashi knew she needed to do something fast before things got out of hand. So she acted using her powers and did something that had Nessie surprised. Not sure what she did, but our hero had completely vanished somehow, because Nessie wasn't able to find him anywhere. Our boy himself was surprised to see that, because for some reason that girl wasn't able to touch him anymore. So he looked down, and of course he's a slime girl now. I mean, why not? At this point, I'm not even surprised. As for Arashi, she was pretty proud of the fact that she managed to trick the girl and ask Nessie if she was satisfied now. On top of that, she was relieved that after transforming her master into a slime, that feeling from earlier was slowly starting to go away. And now, with a clear head, she turned towards Nessie, asking if she still wasn't convinced yet that there was no one inside this pool apart from her. Before she had a chance to answer, Arashi reached for her hand, and to the girl's shock, she pulled her into the water. And man, what is even going on in this chapter? How did that tiny little pool turn into a massive sea? I mean, this girl was literally standing in it 5 minutes ago, and now they're diving into it like it has no bottom. Well, let's just roll with it, I guess. Arashi, who was the only one able to see our hero in his current state, turned towards her and noticed him floating not far from them. And since she didn't want to take any chances, the girl literally kicked our poor fool out of the pool, sending him flying through the air. After that part was taken care of, she turned her attention back towards Nessie and, just like before, pulled her in closer, asking if she could see their master anywhere. By then, Nessie was pissed, so she decided to teach her a lesson for treating her like a fool, but Arashi immediately stopped her before she could get a chance to attack her. After which, she pulled her in closer, asking if the reason she came to this place while she was bathing was because she wanted to take a bath with her, and finding their master was just an excuse. And man, things started to get really steamy between the two girls. Arashi even asked the girl if by any chance she was starting to develop feelings for her. Yeah, no. Nessie immediately shouted for the crazy girl to stop whatever she was doing and broke herself out of her grasp. And while climbing out of the pool, she made it clear she would never do it with her, even though she likes cute girls. So basically, she was admitting Arashi was cute. Turning back, she saw her coming out of the water looking all sparkly and glistening. So she started wondering what had gotten into this girl today, because usually she can't even stand to be in the same room as her, which got her thinking if she could be doing all of this on purpose to annoy her so she would leave. And if that was the case, then there was a chance her master was still with her. So she used her shadow clone ability to create a duplicate of herself to observe her from the shadows to see what was going on. After which, she told the girl she was heading out now because there was no point in her staying in this place if their master wasn't here. But just before leaving, she reminded the girl that their master had lost all of his powers and currently he was somewhere out there. So she should put more effort into finding him because that man has a lot of enemies. After she was done, she waved the girl goodbye, assuring her that she herself would continue her search to find him, and then closed the window and flew out of the place. After she was gone, Arashi started thinking over everything and if what that girl said about their master losing his powers was really true. And now she was hell-bent on confirming it herself, because if that really was the case, then their whole kingdom might be in danger. Looking back, she saw our hero coming out of the water, completely exhausted from everything. At this time, Arashi didn't waste any time and placed a gem on his forehead, and the thing started glowing with a bright blue light. After which, she saw the results from the thing and they were pathetic. His MP was 0, all his stats were low, his potential was unknown. As for his ability, the thing straight up labeled it as failure. Yep, that confirmed those rumors. Her master was as squishy as a wet noodle and had lost all of his powers. So she told the kid there was no use hiding it anymore and suggested he tell her everything. Meanwhile, not far from them, Nessie was watching the whole thing in silence, smirking to herself that she fell for such an obvious trick. Next chapter, Arashi was looking down at our hero, thinking to herself how she had been waiting for this day for so long. And seeing him panicking, she told our hero to calm down because she wasn't planning on harming him. Instead, she asked if he still remembered those days when he used to teach her when she was still young. Our boy obviously had no clue what she was getting at, so the girl reminded him of how strict he used to be back then and used to punish her harshly for even the smallest of mistakes. Turns out, according to the girl, that side of him rubbed onto her as well. After she was done with that story, she started getting out of the shower while telling our hero not to worry about anything. After all, it was just like back then, the only difference being that now he was the child and she was the grown-up. So she would follow his teachings and make sure he experienced everything he once put her through, proving herself to be a perfect master for him, just as he was. But just as she took a few steps, Nessie suddenly appeared in front of her face out of nowhere, asking if that could be their master she was carrying in her hands. Seeing her face popping out of nowhere, Arashi was dumbfounded, while our hero had that dumb expression on his face because he knew what was about to come. But surprisingly, instead of immediately pouncing at the girl, Nessie just praised the girl for doing a good job in hiding the kid from her. On top of that, she overheard her conversation about taking him as her disciple, but she was afraid that would have to wait. Next panel, and she landed a smooch on the girl's forehead. And this was no ordinary kiss either, because in that very same moment, Arashi started getting those butterfly feelings in her stomach, and with that, bam, smoke covered that part of the room. Next thing she knew, she heard Nessie's voice whispering something into her ear, but that had her confused, because she could feel the girl on her other side of the body as well. By the time she noticed what had happened, she was already surrounded from all sides with 3 Nessies crawling all over her body. After taking care of her, Nessie dropped down from the ceiling, thanking the girl for keeping their master safe. Approaching our hero, the girl gently lifted his face and greeted him properly. After that was out of the way, she took him in her arms while our hero desperately tried to explain himself, fearing what she might have planned for him as punishment for running away from her castle. But Nessie didn't even bother listening to our boy and immediately leaped into the air to fly out of the place. But while she was busy with him, she failed to notice some kind of portal that had appeared right in front of her. By the time she noticed, it was already too late, and it wasn't a portal but some kind of force field or gravity magic, because just as she got in range of the thing, it threw both of them back towards the ground. Nessie landed into the water, but our hero wasn't as lucky as her, and he fell face first onto the hard floor and immediately blacked out. As for the one behind that force field, she was pissed, not just because of the fact that Nessie tried to steal her master from her, but because the ability which she used on her moments ago was phantom sorcery, a taboo magic that was forbidden. So in her anger, she prepared to go all out on the girl, demanding she tell her who taught her this magic. Next thing Nessie saw was water jets flying towards her, but these weren't to harm her. Instead, these things worked like ropes, or in simple words, restraining magic. Next thing Nessie knew, she was floating in mid-air, completely restrained while cursing at the girl. But despite that, she wasn't done. She still had some tricks up her sleeves, and since the girl was immune to mental attacks, she was planning on getting a little more physical with her now. Yep, tentacles, because that was the only thing we were missing. From gender bender potion to being used like a toy, getting turned into a slime girl, and now we get these tentacles. Because no Chinese story is complete without tentacles. Oh, and the artist didn't even hold back at this part, because the girl wasn't just restrained here, the things were feeling her in all the wrong places. And what do you know, Nessie still wasn't done. She started summoning more of her minions to weaken the girl's focus and buy herself enough time to escape with the kid. And it worked. I skipped that part, but those things used their tongues all over her, weakening her magic, resulting in Nessie breaking free of the restraints. And our boy, still knocked out. And it was perfect for Nessie because after she was done praising the girl for trying her best, she scooped him up in her arms and started flying out of the place. And this time she was gone for good too, because Arashi was still trapped in those tentacles and was unable to break herself free. Fearing what that girl might do to the kid, Arashi knew she had no other choice, so she turned around shouting for her nuns to help her break free from these things so they could go after that woman. Just as she called them out, she saw her head nun getting tossed into the room by someone. And what the actual F is going on here? Didn't Nessie just fly out of the place with our hero? Then who the F is this girl demanding Arashi hand over the kid to her? Arashi herself was shocked seeing her enter through that door. On top of that, she asked what she meant by hand over their master, because he was clearly with her. As for Nessie, the moment her eyes landed on the girl and the state she was in, she was left dumbfounded. So she screamed at her, asking what she thought she was doing with those things. Arashi, however, hit her with her own question, asking why she came back to her castle. But the answer wasn't what she was expecting. On top of that, earlier, the magic she was feeling from her body was that of charm race, but now was back to fire-based mana, which made no sense. Meanwhile, Nessie was staring at the slimy, crawling things on the ground with disgust. And to make it worse, she mistook those things as belonging to Arashi and thought she was into this kind of stuff. So she asked when she became such a pervert and made a contract with this thing. But for her, it was perfect. So she tried blackmailing the girl, telling her to hand over their master to her if she didn't want her to spread the word of what she saw here today. But Arashi herself was still lost in her thoughts, trying to piece everything together. Because there was no way that this girl flew out of the window and within the same minute appeared from the main door after taking out their elite guards. And then it hit her. It wasn't Nessie who kidnapped their master, but someone else. And apparently that was so frustrating for the girl that she grabbed the tentacles wrapping around her body, and with one adrenaline-filled thrust with her power, she reduced the thing into atoms. Even Nessie herself, who is a powerhouse, leaped back immediately, sensing the power that the girl was giving out. Furious, she immediately turned towards Nessie, shouting that they might be in trouble. But Nessie had no clue what this woman was talking about. After that started their small session of Arashi recapping everything that happened in the past 30 minutes. And after she was done, Nessie's jaw was on the ground, that someone barged into her castle while being disguised as her and abducted their master. However, Nessie refused to believe that story. After all, there was a chance she made the whole thing up and was just trying to send her on a wild goose chase while she hides their master all for herself. So Arashi showed her the remains of that disgusting slimy tentacle, reminding her she won't ever stoop so low as to learn this charm tribe magic. As soon as those words left her lips, both girls realized who took their master, someone from the charm tribe. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Arashi immediately turned around to report this incident to their priests and have them deploy forces to rescue their master. But Nessie knew this matter wasn't as simple as they were making it out to be, so she shouted for her to stop, pointing out that she thinks it wasn't the charm tribe behind this abduction. Surprised, Arashi asked how she could be so sure about that. So Nessie started explaining her theory. Even though this person used spells belonging to that tribe, they can't possibly belong to that tribe themselves, because the demons of that tribe are too low level and aren't capable of using transformation magic to such an extent that even she was fooled by it. So if they rule them out, the only ones left capable of using such powerful magic was the Dragon Clan. That shocked Arashi because what that girl just said made sense. And to make it worse, the only living Dragon Clan member capable of using charm magic was none other than that woman, their sixth disciple and the girl their master took in as his own daughter after the end of the war between demons and humans, Shisaki Rieki. Realizing it was her, both girls fell silent because what happened to that girl was awful. We are told a little bit about the history of this world, of the time when the war between humans and demons was at its peak, and humans were losing that war against the demons. That was until the appearance of their master, who took the side of humans and led a formidable army to fight off the monsters, resulting in humans defeating all the demon races including demons, charm races, and dragons, who were driven to the polar seal to spend the rest of eternity in the icy wastelands. Nessie's father was also one of those people who were forced out of their lands. But before his defeat in the war, he had secretly sent Nessie to our hero's side, knowing it would be the only place where she could be safe. He did it with two things in mind. First, to protect her from the hellish cold of the wastelands, and second, in the hope that one day she might find a way to undo the seal and free all of them. But only she knew the truth about what actually happened and who was the real culprit who drove the demons into that place. And it wasn't our hero, but the ones who sent him to this world to save humans. And when he tried protesting against their decisions, they threatened to take away all of his powers. So, forced under such pressure, the only thing he could do was comply with the decision. So with that, time went on, and both girls slowly grew up under the care of our hero. And one day they saw him walking back into the castle with a new guest, their junior sixth sister, Shisaki Reiki, whom he found during his travels as an orphan and took her in as his own daughter. Back then, Nessie couldn't tell why he had taken all of them into his house, or whether it was out of guilt for driving away the foreign races and leaving only them behind as orphans, because he even overlooked the fact that she and Shisaki Reiki were both demons, the very same beings humanity had once fought to drive out of these lands. With that, a few years quietly passed, and Shisaki grew up immersed in that environment, surrounded by passionate, determined people who lived by their convictions. Watching them day after day, she came to believe she was no different from them, just another human, raising the sword of judgment high and acting in the name of justice. But as she grew older, the traits of the dragon race within her became harder to hide, until that unfortunate day when she accidentally burned down a house. Because of this one mistake from the girl, everyone turned against her. Even the church launched a crusade against her, forcing her out of her own home, and when their master learned about the church's actions, he immediately went to intervene. But in Shisaki's eyes, he was merely heading towards the church, and because of that, she felt a deep sense of betrayal by everyone around her, including her elder sisters. So in the end, she just left everything and no one knew where she went. Man, that was some good writing. Love her backstory. Good job, artist. Back in the present, Arashi was screaming at Nessie that she was heading out to find that woman. But Nessie told her to stop and think for a second. That woman possessed such incredible transformation abilities that even she wasn't able to recognize it was her. But Arashi didn't care about any of that, and shouted she was still going to find her no matter what it takes. Nessie just sighed, seeing how hard-headed this girl can be when she is mad, and asked how she was going to do that. After all, by now she probably had changed her appearance again. On top of that, they can't just rush this matter because she has their master as a hostage, so they should think before taking any action. Otherwise, there is a chance she might harm him. Cut to some other part of the city, and Shisaki was blowing some kind of smoke on our hero's face. As soon as that thing entered his nostrils, he immediately opened his eyes. Back with Nessie, who was telling the girl to just wait for a while because she was counting on our hero's seductive ability to cause some commotion in the city, and was sure that soon they were going to find clues leading to their location. As for our hero, the first thing he did after waking up was start screaming some weird nonsense about something he was dreaming of. That's when he noticed a presence beside him and turned to see who it was. And no, it wasn't Nessie. Take a guess who this woman could be. The very same witch who sold him that shady potion that turned him into a Loli. So he snapped at the woman for tricking him and asked what she was doing in this place. The woman calmly answered she was just here to help him. She explained the whole thing, how she disguised herself as one of his disciples to rescue him from that woman. That part surprised our hero, but it also made sense because if this woman can make others transform, then her own transformation skills must be off the charts. But that still didn't explain why she was helping him. Not like both of them knew each other, they just met once in her shop. As all that was going through his head, he heard the girl assuring him he was safe now so he could rest if he wanted. Yeah, rest was the last thing on his mind right now, because his life has been a living hell ever since he met her and drank that shady potion she sold to him. And in his anger, he flashed at the girl, asking if this was her idea of changing appearance. All he wanted was to look like some other dude, not turn into a Loli. Yeah, all that screaming and crying, and she didn't even take him seriously. Instead, she was admiring how well that potion worked on him. On top of that, the only thing she told him back then was that the potion was going to change his appearance. So technically, she never lied. After all, he was unrecognizable in his current state. Yeah, no, our hero had enough of her nonsense and the fact that she was taking this whole situation so lightly. On top of that, he asked about that seductive aura that had been driving him and the people around him crazy. But the calm girl just told him not to worry about the minor details because she was here now and would handle everything from here on. And since our hero still wouldn't stop screaming, she pushed him down, telling him to calm down. After which, she prepared to examine his body in a very professional manner. Oh, and of course, she also gave him a wonderful view to enjoy while she was doing her thing. Our boy, though, could only curse his luck once again, wondering why everyone he met seemed so eager to put him through a body check process. By then, the girl had managed to find what she was looking for, the mark she put on his body using that potion, which had perfectly fused with his own original mark. And this thing was also the reason women around him were going crazy, because this thing turned him into a walking aphrodisiac. Turns out, not too long ago, while wandering around, she managed to overhear some rumors flying around about him losing his powers. And that was when she realized that the opportunity she had been waiting for had finally arrived. And around that same time, she heard about a person who was wandering around the black market in search of a potion that could change the appearance of a person, and she had a hunch that the buyer was our boy. So she transformed into this appearance to confirm it for herself, and sure enough, it was him walking into the place. Using that chance, she handed over the potion bottle to him. And the reason she went through all that trouble just to put that potion in his hands wasn't because she was thinking of taking her revenge for what happened to her all those years ago, but rather she wanted to get to the bottom of this whole situation and uncover the real reason behind the disappearance of his powers. Okay, that's enough of that. Back to the crazy stuff, because I'm not 100% certain why, but the girl was drooling while the kid behind her was traumatized. Okay, not traumatized, but he was fearing if this woman could be an enemy in disguise who came here to assassinate him. But the problem was, right now in his current state, he was completely at her mercy. So if he made any sudden moves, she might actually end him. That is when he got an idea. It wasn't a brilliant idea, but it was an idea, and it included him using his seductive ability on this woman. And you can already tell how that's going to end. He was thinking of putting this woman under that trance and using that chance to make his escape from this place. But the problem was, the only time he was able to activate that ability was when those two girls infused his body with their magic. And right now, he had no way to refuel his body with magical energy. That was until he looked up and saw a buttload of magical energy right before his eyes, which he could steal for himself straight from this woman. Okay, that's enough for me, Chads. I can't handle this anymore, my head hurts. But if you stuck around until the end and want me to continue this story, then hit the like button and leave a comment. If I can get enough likes on this video, I'll continue this series, otherwise I'm dropping it. Until next time, take care.